What is gaslighting? Examples and how to deal with it. If someone is intentionally distorting reality to make you feel like what you're seeing or feeling isn't real, you could be a victim of gaslighting. Gaslighting can come from a romantic partner, a boss, a family member, a doctor, or anyone else in a position of power. If you are being gaslighted, there are clear steps you can take to deal with your abuser and get help. What is gaslighting? Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation that hinges on creating self-doubt. Gaslighting as trying to associate someone with the label crazy. It's making someone seem or feel unstable, irrational, and not credible. Making them feel like what they're seeing or experiencing isn't real, that they're making it up, that no one else will believe them. Gaslighting involves an imbalance of power between the abuser and the person they're gaslighting. Abusers often exploit stereotypes or vulnerabilities related to gender, sexuality, race, nationality, and/or class. The most distinctive feature of gaslighting is that it's not enough for the gaslighter simply to control his victim or have things go his way. It's essential to him that the victim herself actually come to agree with him. How do you know if someone is gaslighting you? One of the really difficult things about gaslighting is that it's confusing at its core. It's meant to confuse you, and so it's really hard to identify it. That it often comes from someone you care about and trust. Signs to watch for include the Twilight Zone effect. Victims of gaslighting often report feeling like a situation is real, like it's happening on a different plane from the rest of their life. Language describing you or your behavior as crazy, irrational, or over-emotional. When I asked women about their partner's abusive tactics, they often describe being called a crazy bitch. This phrase came up so frequently, I began to think of it as the literal discourse of gaslighting. Being told you're exaggerating. Feeling confused and powerless after leaving an interaction. Isolation. Many gaslighters make efforts to isolate victims from friends, family, and other support networks. Tone policing. A gaslighter may criticize your tone of voice if you challenge them on something. This is a tactic used to flip the script and make you feel that you're the one to blame, rather than your abuser. A cycle of warm, cold behavior to throw a victim off balance. A gaslighter may alternate between verbal abuse and praise, often even in the same conversation. The National Domestic Violence Hotline lists 5 techniques a gaslighter may use against a victim. Withholding. The abusive partner pretends not to understand or refuse to listen. Countering. The abusive partner questions the victim's memory of events, even when the victim remembers them accurately. Blocking or diverting. The abusive partner changes the subject and/or questions the victim's thoughts. Trivializing. The abusive partner makes the victim's needs or feelings seem unimportant. Forgetting or denial. The abusive partner pretends to have forgotten what actually occurred or denies things like promises made to the victim. How does gaslighting impact mental health? Gaslighting is meant to provoke uncertainty and self-doubt, which is often harmful to a victim's mental health. If you're being gaslighted, you may experience anxiety, depression, disorientation, lowered self-esteem, post-traumatic stress disorder, a hyperbolized fear of danger known as hypervigilance, suicidal thoughts. Examples of gaslighting. Below are examples of gaslighting researchers have documented through intense study of the phenomenon and extensive interviews with victims. Remember, gaslighting is a pervasive problem, and these are just a few examples. If you identify with any of the signs in the section above, you may still be experiencing gaslighting, even if none of the below scenarios describe your situation. A classic example is a floundering partner who tells their significant other that their perceptions of inappropriate or deceitful behavior are untrue. For example, Ebony's partner would steal her money and then tell her she was careless about finances and had lost it herself. Adriana's boyfriend hid her phone and then told her she had lost it, in a dual effort to confuse her and prevent her from communicating with others. Jen described her ex-boyfriend as a chameleon who made up small stories to confuse her, like lying about what color shade he had worn the day before, to make her feel disoriented. Emily described her ex-husband stealing her keys so she could not leave the house and then insisting she had lost them again. Gaslighting in romantic relationships. Gaslighting can occur in any romantic relationships. The constant is the gaslighter is in a position of power. Research on gaslighting has found that it happens most frequently in heterosexual relationships, with a man gaslighting a woman. Gaslighting often goes hand in hand with domestic violence. In a survey conducted by the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 74% of adult female victims of domestic violence reported experiencing gaslighting from their partner or ex-partner male. Abusers typically mobilize gendered stereotypes to gaslight their female partners. The idea that women are inherently irrational, that masculinity equals reason and femininity equals emotionally and unreason. That's really at the core of a lot of gaslighting in heterosexual intimate relationships. While it may seem like we're moving past such stereotypes in the modern-day US, they persist particularly in intimate relationships. Margaret's husband convinced her she was attracting too much attention by dressing up, doing her hair, and wearing makeup. She began to believe his stories about men leering at her. So she started wearing t-shirts and overeating, in her words. She stopped taking care of herself to appease Lee's suspicions. Carla's husband tried to convince her she was sleeping with men in the neighborhood, pointing to men on the street, asking her to identify which ones were waiting for her. He called her a prostitute for having an IUD, introduced randomize, a form of birth control, and forced her to have it removed. His sexual gaslighting strategies inhibited Carla's mobility. She began to stay home all the time, refusing to go out because she feared the stories he might invent. Gaslighting and gender. Intimate relationships are not the only space in which gender plays into gaslighting. Other examples of gender-based gaslighting include gaslighting in medicine. Some women are gaslighted by their doctors, who may use the stereotype that women are rational or hysterical to dismiss legitimate symptoms and health concerns and convince a female patient that nothing is actually wrong with her. Gaslighting in the workplace. Gaslighting in the workplace can also occur outside of a racial dynamic. If a person in a position of power causes you to question yourself in a way that is negatively affecting your career or confidence in your abilities, you may be experiencing gaslighting. Specifically, employees who file sexual harassment claims are often gaslighted, with both perpetrators and management of denying anything happened, causing the victim to question their own memory and narrative of the events. How to deal with gaslighting. Tell as many people as possible what's happening. Don't just tell one person, I think I'm experiencing this. Tell multiple people in your social network so they can back you up and verify your experience of reality. When friends and colleagues affirm your experiences of mistreatment are real, you are better able to recognize that the abuse is not due to personal faults. Stay in touch with friends and family. Even if you're not directly discussing the gaslighting, it's important to keep in contact with friends and family members. When you're isolated, you're more susceptible to self-doubt. Gaslighters know this and often try to convince you only they have your best interest at heart. You are crazy. No one loves you. You are here with me. You don't have anyone else here. If you are watching for the behavior, you may be more aware that it's happening and more likely to shut it down. Keep a journal. If gaslighting has eaten away at your self-esteem and made you feel confused and disoriented, keeping a journal can help you take back some control. Advices. Nonprofit that supports families affected by domestic abuse. You can keep checking your version of events and confirm that things actually happen the way you remember. Even if